Terry Barber is a best-selling author and founder of Lighthouse Catholic Media. Jesse Romero is a retired law enforcement officer, a former kickboxing champion with a master's degree in theology. And together, they share a passion for evangelization and PhDs in common sense. You're listening to The Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. To join the show, call 888-526-2151. Here's Terry and Jesse.
Welcome to The Terry and Jesse Show. Jesse's out of town this time. I'm back in the saddle. I've been gone 2 days for board meetings, but I'm back from the San Francisco area and ready, willing, and able to help you be inspired to fall in love with Jesus Christ. Hey, I just wanted to mention, our program is not right versus left. It's right versus wrong. It's actually, we're Catholicism for the blue-collar man, and we want to encourage you, we want to enlighten you, we want to offer you solutions. And the solutions that hang on one second, this is unbelievable here. Jesse Romero will not be here today. Mr. Engineer, hang on one second. Please call this number. Okay, so here we go. And what I wanted to mention is we have so many interviews set right now, 6:02, and we have several good interviews to talk about health care, to talk about the preborn and how to reach out to people who have had abortions. We're going to talk about a lot of material that I hope will inspire you, but don't forget today, okay? We are getting ready. The Holy Father is going to Fatima, Portugal. I'll be in Fatima, Portugal next week with Steve Ray, who we've interviewed many times. So I want to remind you, Living the Message of Fatima, I've got Father Wade Meneses and Father Shannon Collins doing these series on Fatima, and I want to give those out to people. And don't forget, last week, everybody, do you remember this? I mean, I'm blown away. We had our marijuana conference with Dr. Vince Fortunés, a medical doctor who talked about the effects of marijuana on the brain. And wow, that was powerful with Jesse Romero and Ruben Nava, who's a cop for the LA Sheriff's Department. Unbelievable what was said there at this event. And I want to just encourage you to pick up those marijuana conferences. When I go to Denver, I leave tomorrow for Denver after the radio show. I'm bringing lots of sets because Denver and Colorado has legalized marijuana. And I guarantee you, the information that's on these CDs will blow you away. And I just want to ask you, Mom, Dad, do you know anybody in your family that's smoking pot? I just want them to get the information. They have free will to say yay or nay. But this information you're not going to get anywhere else. Dr. Vince Fortunés is St. John Paul II's doctor. He's an expert with the brain. And he's also an expert on dealing with marijuana. And so why do I say this? Because you need to get this information to people. Call 877-526-2151. 877-526-2151. Do I have Bradley Hahn on line one, Mr. Engineer? Great. Bradley Hahn with Solidarity. Are you there with us? It's Terry Barber.
Yes, Terry. Good morning, Terry.
Oh, God bless you, brother. I've got some good news, everybody. Bradley Hahn you've heard these commercials on Solidarity, healthcare, and all this good information about how to help families deal with the issue of dealing with the American Health Care Act. What can we do? And I've got an expert on that, and I want to drive people to Bradley Hahn's website because I think you're going to save not only money, but you're going to be able to do this with a Catholic mindset. So welcome, Bradley, to the Terry and Jesse Show.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. It's a blessing to be on your show.
Well, what impact does the recently passed House bill, American Health Care Act, have on Catholics? And before you answer that question, just give us the 30,000-foot level kind of description of what your company does for families, because I think it's something that most families, probably all families, would be interested in hearing.
Yeah, basically, Solidarity Health Share is a national not-for-profit ministry that helps facilitate the payment of our members' medical expenses.
Okay.
So, for example, when my family goes into a provider, to a doctor, we present our Solidarity Health Sharing card, and then Solidarity helps try to get the best price, the best reference-based price or cash-based price for that service from that provider. And so then if it's eligible for member sharing, which means it's faithful to the teaching of the church, that medical expense,
absolutely,
then that's shared among our members. So currently, right now, my family of four, we pay $449 per month. And that money then, if every month is earmarked to other members to help us to payment of their medical expenses.
Bradley, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think you missed something. Or I thought I heard you say you pay for four people in your family $449 a month for medical. Time out. Everybody else is paying like 2 or 3 times that. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, you're correct, Terry. And the reason we can do this is we're not playing the insurance game. The insurance game is this third-party payer system where this insurance company it steps in and breaches that relationship between the doctor and the patient and determines the costs and the expenses for everything. Where with us, Solidarity members are self-pay patients. And so we go in there and we try to fight for the best free market price for our health care. That's why our costs are so much lower. And that's why we can afford, to only contribute $449 per month.
Wow, that's amazing. So now what impact does this recently passed House bill, the American Health Care Act, have on Catholics and everyone?
Well, on everyone, they're still missing the boat because they're not discussing this whole problem with a third-party payer system. Mm-hmm. They're not talking about, the failure of access, to primary care physicians, which forces us to go to emergency rooms for treatments of sore throat. Mm-hmm. They're not addressing the whole price variability in the system right now, but that's impacting everybody who has insurance. But what's most egregious to me is no one is addressing this issue because even with the Affordable Care Act and the new American Health Care Act, it still forces us Catholics to cooperate for the immediate material cooperation in evil because we have to still pay for amoral things, which they call preventive health services.
Like what?
Which include contraception, surgical sterilization, and potential abortion-inducing drugs like the morning after pill and Ella. Wow. And so those issues violate our conscience, but we're still forced. So every plan that's issued in the individual marketplace must have these items in there.
That's terrible. Bradley, let me ask you this, because I know there's Catholic businessmen listening to this show. Can they offer their employees a health care insurance plan that complies with this Affordable Care Act?
They cannot, and
what?
To me, that is that's really a higher cooperation with evil because that employer is providing the necessity, the insurance, to pay for these services. Ooh. And so a best option for a business person would be and since the fines looks like they're going away, is to possibly offer Solidarity Health Share to their employees, because that'll lessen the cooperation in evil. Absolutely.
What website can we send people to that would get more information on this, Bradley?
Yeah, it's solidarityhealthshare.org.
Great.
So once again, that's solidarityhealthshare.org.
Great. And then let me ask you this, because I think some people understand that, if you have 50 full-time employers, that you're required by law to offer health insurance plans, that provide minimal essential coverage to its employees. But if a Catholic business owner offers employees a morally and ethical-based option like Solidarity Healthcare, is this, really the way to go?
I think it's the only way to go to preserve your spot in heven, so to speak.
I love it.
Because
yes.
this is spiritual warfare we're here.
Amen.
And just like Paul VI in Humanae Vitae was so prophetic, not only is contraception going to be accepted in our culture, we're going to be forced to pay for it. And I first read that and I thought he was crazy, but now it's come the chickens come home to roost, so to speak, because now our government is forcing us to pay for contraception, and forces us to the immediate material cooperation in evil. Yeah,
just like they're forcing many people to pay for us for the abortion issue, too. And it's basically a life issue, and I appreciate that. Just for the benefit of us who aren't really familiar with terms, what is accommodation? What does that term mean in the health care issues?
Well, that was that whole farce where when the government went after the Little Sisters of the Poor, they said, oh, no, you don't have to pay for contraception. We'll give you an accommodation. Well, the accommodation was the Little Sisters didn't have to pay for it, but their insurance provider did. So what did the insurance provider do? Just marked up the price to cover that expense.
Terrible.
And so truly that was not an accommodation. But fortunately, Terry, it's a blessing that we have Solidarity Health Share, which is a great way for us just to opt out of this egregious, amoral healthcare system we're in right now that forces us to violate our conscience. Us as Catholics, we can step up and say, no, we're not taking this anymore. I'm going to join some like-minded community Catholics, and we can come together and we can take the burden of our medical expenses, our spiritual needs, and let's share among a community like we did in Christ's time.
You only have a minute left, but what is this abortion premium mandate? I think our folks need to know what that is.
Yeah, that was a kind of a genesis from the Affordable Care Act, where it's mandated that people who participate in some health insurance plans at the state exchange level must pay $1 per month to fund elective abortions.
What?
And that's still the law of the land.
Terrible.
And the American Care Act is trying to undo that now. So that was a good thing about the American Care Act that was passed by Congress. It
Absolutely.
does eliminate that. But, Terry, we have such a long ways to go.
Amen.
For us as Catholics to still exercise our religious liberty, we need something like Solidarity Health Share, so we're not forced
Absolutely.
to violate our conscience when we pay for medical expenses.
Well said. Bradley, your website, one more time for all our listeners to go to and look into this. Go ahead. What's your website? One more time.
Yeah, it's solidarityhealthshare.org.
Yep.
So that's solidarityhealthshare.org.
Wow. Bradley, we need to get you back on again. Maybe when I come back from Fatima, Portugal, we'll get you on again in a couple of weeks because this isn't going to go away. Thank you so much. We got to take a quick break. We just finished an interview with Bradley Hahn from Solidarity Health Share Ministry. And you're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. If you want to pick up those rosary CDs free for the month of May, call 877-526-2151 or go to our website, CatholicRC.org. When we come back, we got another informing interview to take. We'll be right back.
Si consistant adversum negastia, non timebit meum. Dominus illuminatio
back to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. Want to join the conversation? Call 888-526-2151. Now here's Terry and Jesse.
Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. Wasn't that a great interview we just had with your healthcare insurance? Wow. We're going to have one more here, but I just want to remind you, we have the men's conference beginning June 3rd at the Sacred Heart Chapel in Covina. Jesse Romero, Fred Krause, and myself will be there. If you want to send your husband to a great men's conference at the Sacred Heart Chapel, June 3rd, call 877-526-2151. I have Sharon St. Pierre from the Merciful Companion Ministry, and this is a response to the Year of Mercy from our Archbishop Gomez's desire, our desire, to reach out to those hurting from an abortion loss. This is the Office of Life, Justice, and Peace. This is who I'm going to be speaking with, and I'm going to ask her a lot of questions on how we, as listeners, can be involved in supporting people who have been wounded by abortion. And that's why I want to welcome Sharon St. Pierre. Welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Terry.
Well, I am excited because when it comes to pro-life and the life of the unborn, I've always am right there with you. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about your ministry here in the Southern California area?
Absolutely. ByYourSideLA.org is the website we want to recommend folks who have been affected by an abortion or other reproductive loss to reach out to one of us, a merciful companion, to receive an initial support to begin their healing process. A loss to abortion or miscarriage or other reproductive loss has multiple impacts on an individual. So we're not just talking about the woman who had the abortion, but the father of the baby, the grandparents, relatives. The impact is just very extensive, and we want folks to know that they're not alone in this process and that they can be whole again even after the effects of the decision that they made.
Wow, that's fantastic. And what I really enjoy is that your ministry is training lay folks, all of us, to offer this help via the telephone. They don't even have to leave their home for those who are hurting after an abortion. And if you think about it, I know the statistics just here in L.A., 225 women a day walk into an abortion clinic in Los Angeles. The impact is huge. So that's why I'm asking anyone, can help with this ministry from home. How does that all work in the sense of helping the ministry?
What I do is help train those lay folks that are interested to become merciful companions.
Great.
And alongside with that is the website that helps connect, as well as a phone line for those who are ready to start the healing process. So we are talking about helping men and women, like Carol, for example, is someone that I personally worked with who was in her senior year in college, felt pressured by the boyfriend's family to terminate the pregnancy. This is something very common that people can relate to. She was threatened about how the boyfriend would be disinherited from the family business and how terrible it would be for him. So she went under the pressure. She fell into the fear, which is very common, and had the decision of aborting. Now, with a merciful companion, she was able to work through her guilt and shame. These are common things that we see. We explored how she could find forgiveness, what that would look like for her.
Awesome.
We helped her understand how unhealthy she was coping. For example, she was using alcohol and over-the-counter drugs to sleep herself and be numb over the pain of her loss. So after a series of conversations by a trained layperson, she was at a much better place to be whole again. It wasn't a complete process, but she was at least able to start that and feel herself whole again. And that's what we're trying to do with anyone who's been affected by the loss of an abortion.
How can people get involved? Can you give us the website, a phone number? Because I know many people listening going, hey, I want to be part of the solution. How can I help?
The website is ByYourSideLA.org. We also have it in Spanish, ContigoLA.org. And the number to call is 1-877-301-9684. And I want to communicate that, again, it's not just men women who are affected. We want to make sure that men reach out to us for help.
Absolutely.
Because in a society that doesn't support grief in general, and if we were talking about a loss to abortion, there's a lot of secrecy involved, unfortunately. So men typically, as fixers and problem solvers, tend to shove their own feelings aside and cover them up. And so over the years, it comes out in some fashion. And we want to let them know that they're not alone in this process. And reaching out to us through ByYourSideLA.org or calling that number is a starting point for them to break free of that secrecy and share their thoughts and feelings. The burden that these folks can carry is huge. And sometimes we see it recently after an abortion, like Maria, who we're talking to right now.
Sure.
She had an abortion 2 weeks ago. But we also see it over time. It's not uncommon to have women call and share stories of after 30 years, something triggered the pain. You know, whether it was the sound of the vacuum, whether it was, someone in their family who had a newborn. Multiple things can trigger, and it changes from person to person, but the common thread is the pain over the loss, a loss that they cannot grieve out in the open, like the loss of a loved one. So here we are, ByYourSideLA.org, ready to start that process with them so that they're not isolated, so that they can understand that sadness, the feelings of emptiness that they go through in the majority of the cases.
Sharon, I'm excited because I know you guys have 6 topic approaches to initiate the healing process. And, some of our listeners are saying, well, I'm not that well trained to do this. But you can train them. But can you just give us those 6 topic approaches to initiate the healing process so our listeners can see how really it's not brain surgery. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, first of all. But can you give those 6 topic approaches?
Yes. The first one is that of helping the caller feel a sense of trust in you and having them share the story. So what we're basically doing is listening. Again, this is a secret. It's something that's been pushed down over the years, and it's something painful to discuss. There's the sense of, am I going to be judged or not? So by that sharing of the story, the merciful companion listens in a compassionate, non-judgmental way, helps them process the feelings. That's another topic. There's a lot of anger, sadness, guilt, and shame is very common. We help them grieve the loss. We help them recognize the unhealthy behaviors that are attached. Like I mentioned, the alcohol, substance abuse is very common. Promiscuity is also seen as behaviors that root out of that loss to the abortion. Then we help them find support because it's important to connect with others and to connect with other people outside of us to be able to share and confide in. And then finally, we walk them through what memorializing that child would look like. So it's further steps into the healing process, and we're always looking out for additional referrals to provide. We're lay people, the majority of us, and so we want to be able to help them connect with other research so that they are continually working in this healing journey.
Sharon, it doesn't sound like brain surgery. It really sounds like anyone who has a love for their fellow man or woman can step up at home and be available for people who have had an abortion, whether it's the man or the woman who have been participating, or like you say, an uncle, aunt. Everybody's affected by this. Again, can you give us that phone number, the 877 number, and the website so our listeners can get more information on how they can participate with you on this?
It's 1-877-301-9684 or ByYourSideLA.org. This is the number and the website to call for help. That's what we want to spread, that we're here to help. And there's information through that to get a hold of me if you want to become the Merciful Companions. I have a lot to get started. We are eager to help. We are prepared. We have the empathic listening ear ready to reach out and start them in this healing journey. So we don't want anybody to be afraid. This is confidential.
Absolutely.
It's you and the Merciful Companion, and we know the pain is there. So let's start healing that pain so that you can function better at home, so that your relationships are not as affected, so you can start feeling whole again. And it's really critical that folks that may not feel I can be a Merciful Companion, that they spread the word. And we have lots of materials at the office that you individually can help pass out. if your pastor, your parishes don't have it, we have so much. We want to continue to give it away. So reach out to us at the Office of Life, Justice, and Peace, but more so help connect others to this fantastic resource, byyoursidela.org, 1-877-301-9684.
Sharon, you're terrific. We're out of time. I love your zeal. I hear it in your voice. Folks, I really want to encourage all of our listeners to get involved in this ministry by calling that 877-301-9684 and get involved in helping an unborn and also helping a man, woman, child, everybody involved in the healing process of abortion. Sharon, thanks again for joining us here at the Terry and Jesse Show.
God bless you. Thank you for helping us spread the word.
Our pleasure. Folks, when we come back, I've got another interview. This is the day of interviews. It's the King's Men. This is going to be for Dad, and it's Father's Day coming up next month. You're going to want to hear that. For those who didn't take advantage of the month of May to promote Fatima, we have Living the Message of Fatima by two on-fire priests, Father Shannon Collins and Father Wade Meneses. You can get that series by calling 877-526-2151. I'm also giving the Rosary away. 2 copies of 20 Mysteries. Try buying that at a bookstore and you will pay you a lot of money. We're giving it away if you just give us the shipping and the handling. Also, I want to reach out. I'm on my way to Denver, Colorado tomorrow for a Marian conference on Fatima, but I'm bringing the Marijuana Conference CDs with me because I know moms and dads have got relatives and friends that don't think marijuana is a problem. Well, I've got a CD set that's going to blow you away with Dr. Vince Fortunese. He's St. John Paul II's doctor back in 2001. He's a neurologist, and he gives you what the story is regarding the brain and marijuana. You want to hear all of this conference. Call 877-526-2151 or go online to catholicrc.org. When we come back, I've got something for Dad he's going to want to do this weekend or this summer. We'll be right back.
This is Bishop David O'Connell, and you're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio.
Back to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. Want to join the conversation? Call 888-526-2151. Now here's Terry and Jesse.
Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. I always say I'm too blessed to be stressed, too anointed to be disappointed, and if hope was money, I'd be a millionaire. And I'm just glad to know that you're here with us, and thank you. I've had some good interviews. I've got more people calling in, but I want to mention something from Archbishop Gomez. He has an article that says, The Witness of the New Martyrs, okay? And he's talking about worldwide, it's estimated that one Christian is killed for his or her faith every hour of every day. What? Yes, that is the fact. It's worth reading that the sentence again slowly, because here it comes, everybody. More than 200 million Christians live in daily risk of persecution. Can you imagine that, everyone? What? According to the Growing Numbers of Body report, the recent years, authorities ranging from the U.S. State Department and the European Union of non-government research, such as like Pew Research we use all the time, the daily experience of being a Christian for many people includes being tortured, killed, and having schools and churches destroy, homes seized. It's not a pleasant thought, is it, everybody? But think about this. The Christians in Iraq are only 250,000 people now. Syria, they lost 500,000 Christians. Pope Francis has called the Islamic campaign against Christianity in the Middle East a form of genocide. I didn't call that. That's what I call it, though. It's a genocide, and the U.S. government has agreed. Okay? And so here's my point. It's because we are a lack of action. We need to be praying for that, but also it's a lack of concern and indifference in the media and even in the churches. It's unconscionable. We should not accept a world in which someone can murder in the name of God and others can be murdered for the simple fact of believing in Jesus Christ. This is Archbishop Gomez, and I'm with him on this. I really am. Right now, there's a bipartisan legislation that would begin to help us and the Christians over there. The Iraq-Syrian Genocide Emergency Relief Accountability Act. It's called H.R. 390. Folks, please call your congressman and provide vital assistance to the genocide survivors, and would create a system for investigating and, I might add, prosecuting those who commit these atrocities. We can't let them do this forever. I urge everyone, Archbishop Gomez, I'm with you. He says, I encourage everyone in the Catholic community to ask your representatives in Congress to support this measure. You know, rather than, I think I'm going to go have dinner tonight. No! Our brothers and sisters are being slaughtered in the Middle East. And here's what Pope Francis, he told this beautiful story that here's what he said this past weekend. He said about one Catholic woman married to a Muslim man. The Pope met the woman's husband in a refugee camp in Greece. The man told him that when terrorists invaded their home, they saw the woman wearing a crucifix and demanded she throw it away. And when she refused, they killed her. You know, this is a terrible reality, wouldn't you agree? As anti-Christian persecution in the world goes. In the prayer service 2 weeks ago, Pope Francis said, what does the church need to do today? Martyrs and witnesses. That means everyday saints who lead ordinary lives carrying forward with this. So we need to be witnesses to those in every day. And I always bring up the fact of Father Zachariah Boutros from Egypt, when his brother was martyred by a terrorist. He was only 14 years old. And when they slit his brother's throat, who was a priest, he fell to the ground. His Bible fell on the ground. He was 14 years old, Father Zachariah, picked up his brother's Bible, and the terrorist said, you want to be next? And what did he say? You can't send me anywhere that God isn't. Thanks be to God, they just beat him over the head with the butt of the gun, and he survived, and he became a priest. And I'll tell you what, he's evangelizing those Muslim people in the Middle East. Around 6 to 7 million Muslims are coming into Christianity because of Father Zachariah Boutros. I've got a 5-CD set on how he evangelizes Muslims. If you want that set, call 877-526-2151 and help and become part of the solution that Archbishop Gomez has been asking all of us to get involved in that. I've got my good friend Mark Huck from the Kingsmen. I'm going to be out in his neck of the woods on a retreat, I think in June, and we'll talk about that. But I want all of us, since we were talking about abortion earlier in the show with an interview, I'd like to talk about what Mark Huck's and the Kingsmen are doing to help family life. Mark Huck, welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show.
Hi, Terry. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, are you kidding, man? Your perseverance with me, because I'm telling you, I love what you're doing, and I think our listeners, for those who know nothing about your ministry, I want you to please tell us, what the heck is the Kingsmen? It sounds good, but what is it?
Yeah, it's not a Protestant organization, although it might sound like one. We've been around for 13 years, working out here in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia.
Great.
And we just organically have been, migrating around the United States. What we are is fundamentally a nonprofit lay ministry that's seeking to build up men, and we're doing that through our small men's groups. We have them in about 29 dioceses around the country, about 50 or so groups. And again, it's just all organic growth, guys that saw what we did either online or through EWTN and wanted to do it. And then we do retreats to help guys go deeper in the faith. And so we have that component, a healing element of our ministry to help guys who are extremely wounded.
Yes.
Or not extremely wounded, but guys that just need to go deeper with the wound. And then also a call to action, which is exactly what you just were talking about, a call to action to take up in our own country the battles of our day, whether that's traditional marriage, the multi-billion-dollar pornography industry, or abortion. Those are the three ones that we fight. We kind of galvanize men to do those things as well.
Wow. Mark, I want to understand also for our listeners what the benefits are for Dad. And before I ask you this question, I want everybody to understand something. If Dad is not engaged as a Catholic and as a Catholic leader in the family, the statistics are that 23% of your kids, are you ready for this, will not be practicing the faith by the time they're 23. So it's critical that Dad gets engaged. That's why I mentioned our men's conference that we have June 3rd at the Sacred Heart Chapel. But I'm going to be up after that chat for that men's conference. I'm going to be at one of the wild weekend. I'm going to be with the Kingsmen, but they have a retreat that they do all over the country. And Mark, can you tell our listeners, I know we have one in June that I'm going to be coming to, but can you tell our listeners a little bit about why they should come, dads and sons, to a weekend retreat with your organization, and what is it?
Sure. So this retreat is especially designed for fathers with sons, and it's an outdoor experiential retreat, which we call Into the Wild. And so we will be in Show Low, Arizona, in the Diocese of Gallup, the poorest diocese in the country, about 3.5 hours northwest of Phoenix. And we will be there the weekend before Father's Day weekend. So what a great gift to a father and a family to go. You'll be there.
Yep.
And we bring them on weekends like this so that we can get them away, of course, from the world, yes, but to really give them an opportunity to bond not only with their sons, give their sons an experience of manhood, a rite of passage, if you will, experience that, and give them their faith, and this is the critical piece, in a masculine modality. So the children, the young people, and the fathers start to see their faith as a manly thing. And unfortunately, many of the men that have left the church, and probably why that statistic is as great as it is, they've never come alive as a man in the church. And so we want them to come alive in the wilderness, God's creation, and really experience their faith in a brand new way, in a Eucharistic way.
Yes.
And from that, it's very transformative.
Yeah, Mark, I'm excited for what you're doing for men. And Mom, if you're listening, what a great Father's Day gift. Sending your husband and your son to a retreat on a weekend. And I can tell you, folks, when I'm going to be there, I'm going to give the retreat and some power preaching about fatherhood that I know from my own experience. So I'd love to have Mark give a website and phone number or website confirmation of where they can get information on this, Mark, please.
Sure. So it's intothewildweekend.com. And this particular retreat, they're all over the country, but this one's in Show Low. It's in the cool white mountains of Arizona, so it's not the desert. And all the information you need, phone number and contact info, can be found at intothewildweekend.com.
Well, Mark, I want to keep you a few more minutes, even though we're going to take a quick break. And the reason I want to keep you is because I see a great need. Jesse and I both say this a lot on the radio about the crisis of fatherhood. And the crisis, even in our Catholic Church, where if you look around on a Sunday, and I'm just going to be honest with you, you see a lot of women, but where are the dads? And so I think you're filling a big need in the church with the Kingsmen and helping them realize the role of dad, because it seems to me that we're missing something there. Can you share with our listeners why you started this organization and how you can help the dads get engaged as being leaders, of spiritual leaders in their family?
Sure. Well, I mean, that's the core of what we do. I mean, the reality is there's a crisis in masculinity. That's what you alluded to.
Yep.
And that's why we started. Sorry?
Yes, I said absolutely a crisis. And so you're filling that gap. So tell us, how do you do that? What are you doing to help men get more engaged in their spirituality and as leaders in the family? Tell us.
Sure. So that's why we design the retreats. That's why we have the small men's groups. That's why we do this full time, because the reality is it's hard to reach that man when he's not living for the Lord. And so we want to draw him out of himself by giving him experiences that he normally would be attracted to. For instance, going into the wilderness, hunting, shooting guns, bows and arrows, building things, accomplishing something, getting something done to support a local ministry or a local service project, something to draw him out that he's got great good in him and these gifts he wants to share, but he doesn't know how to connect that with his faith. And so when we bring him to an experience like Into the Wild, he sees that he can do both. And so we're drawing that guy out who's got the remote control in his hand and he's not going to Mass on Sunday. Right. We're drawing him out based upon where he's at, right? We're meeting him right where he's at.
Absolutely.
And guess what, Terry? We give him fantastic gourmet food.
I love it. Mark, we've got to take, I hear you, we got to take a quick break. I want to hear more about the food. You can meet a man in his stomach here. We'll be right back with Mark Huck talking about the Kingsmen. Don't turn that dial.
This is Dr. Scott Hahn, and you are listening to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio.
Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. I've got Mark Huck from the Kingsmen here, but I want to remind you, Our Lady of Fatima's 100th anniversary is coming up. The Holy Father's going to Fatima. I'm going to go to Fatima when he leaves, and I'll be going next week with Steve Ray, so I'll be looking forward to doing that. But I've got Living the Message of Fatima by Father Shannon Collins and Father Wade Meneses. This is an incredible series on Fatima. If you haven't picked it up, you can get it at a really discounted rate by just calling 877-526-2151. And by the way, we talk about family life. Last weekend we had our marijuana conference with Jesse Romero, Dr. Vince Fortunés, and Ruben Nava. Ruben is the policeman who works in narcotics, has some amazing statistics for all of us. Dr. Vince was St. John Paul II's doctor, and Jess Romero is taking it from the biblical. So we have the medical, the law enforcement, and the biblical with Jesse. And this series is great to give to anybody who thinks marijuana is a good thing. I would seriously ask them to just get this set and listen to it, so it might help them, save them from getting into heavier drugs, too. Call 877-526-2151 to get your series and share it with some young person, because I think we need to be links in the chain. Mark Huck with the Kingsmen. Again, how do people get a hold of your website and find out more about your weekend retreats, especially the one I'm going to be at in June? How can they do that?
Sure. So they can go to thekingsmen.org, and that will link them to our Into the Wild Weekend. There's also an intothewildweekend.com website as well. So 2 sites there, but thekingsmen.org will give you everything.
Wonderful. Mark, my final question to you is, how long have you been involved in doing this work? And can you give us a little story? Because I think stories really prove the beauty of your ministry. Have you had men come to the retreats and have basically just turned them around in their spirituality to become real spiritual Catholic men and to engage back as different men? Have you had any stories of men doing that, where they were nominal Catholics and they came back from the weekend saying, wow, I'm renewed? Have you had that?
Oh, there's hundreds of stories like that, and to pull one out, I'd be happy to do that. And
please
especially at the Show Low retreat last year, we had a man who was a Vietnam vet who was basically limping in to the retreat from the war. I mean, and we're 30-some years removed.
Sure.
He hasn't slept. Since the war because of the trauma it brought to his life. And he came to this retreat, and he went on retreat and had an amazing experience, and he received counsel from wonderful people and mentoring. But a priest was on that weekend who was talking to him in confession, and he hadn't been to confession in years. So that's life-changing in of itself. We have guys that come and it's 30 years they haven't gone to confession. Well, he went to confession, and he talked to this priest, and he had some time with him outside of his receiving his penance, and the priest encouraged him to press on, and he said, have you prayed for your buddies? And this is why the man wouldn't sleep. He was haunted by what he experienced.
Wow.
And it drew him away from God. He said, have you ever tried praying for your buddies? Remember, he hasn't slept in 30-some years.
Oh, no.
He said, why don't you try praying for your buddies? And so he said, I'll do that. I'll try that. And that night, he slept for the first time since the war. So, I mean, I know it's a small story, but it just shows the power of it all on a weekend with God in the wilderness.
Absolutely. And, folks, if you want to go on that weekend in June where I'm going to be at, you can go to Mark's website. Mark, one more time before we let you go, how do people contact you and get all that good information? The Kingsmen.
Sure. thekingsmen.org.
Great. Mark, thanks so much for taking time with us. I'm looking forward to seeing you next month at the conference, and may God richly bless you and your family.
All the best. Thank you, Terry. God bless you.
God love you. Folks, you've been listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. We've had a lot of good interviews today. I thought today would be good to kind of inspire you with kind of good things, good things that are happening in our church. We can dwell on the negative or look at the positive and continue to use that positiveness. Now, I'm going to give you something that's shaky, right? In Canada, are you ready? They're considering a proposal to allow euthanizing mentally ill patients. Why do I bring this up? Not to bring you down, but to say, be aware of this. We're living in a culture of death. That's why I'm asking all of us to be in the culture of life, like St. John Paul II. He's pointed out to us we need to be the culture of life in this culture and be God's witness in a world that acts like God doesn't exist. I always say kindness, because I quote Mother Teresa, kindness has converted more people than zeal, science, or eloquence. Holiness grows so much faster where there is kindness. That's Mother Teresa of Calcutta. And the other thing that I want to inspire you with is what St. Pope Felix III said. He said, "Not to oppose error is to approve it. Not to defend truth is to suppress it. And to neglect to confound evil men when we can do it is no less a sin than to encourage them." Why do I bring these things up? Because they're right in my studio, everybody. That motivates me to speak the truth in charity because I love people. The most merciless thing we can do is let someone wallow in their sins. We can say, oh, well, that's their problem. That's what they think. That's their truth. No, it's not. That's their opinion. I want to know what Jesus Christ teaches, and I know you do too. And here at the Terry and Jesse Show, we don't care. Your opinion, okay, give me your opinion, but I want to know what God's opinion is. I want to know that God, what his teachings are on life issues, because I want to do what God wants, not my will, but his will. There's a song they sing in hell, everybody. I did it my way. You know the song they sing in heaven? I did it his way. I would ask you to sing that song in this life, doing his will, because I want to see everybody in heaven. And I'll just tell you, Bishop Sheen wrote a book about going to heaven. Ignatius Press is going to be reprinting it. Look forward to reading it. I just endorsed it on the back cover of the book. I said most people want to get to heaven. Well, read Bishop Sheen's book. It's coming out at ignatiuspress.com. Look forward to seeing that copy come out. You've been listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. Jesse's on his way to Colorado. He won't be here tomorrow, but Dr. Ed Mazza, my friend, will be here with me. And then I run to Colorado. We're doing a talks at the 100th anniversary of Fatima Conference in the Denver area. And because I'm going to Denver, everybody, they're the first country that actually, guess what? The first country, first state that approved the marijuana, medical marijuana. And we just had a conference on marijuana. I'm bringing a bunch of sets out to Colorado because I know there's a lot of moms and dads. Statistically, you can see what that's done with the safety of their citizens and also the safety of their moral souls. So if you want to pick up the marijuana conference CDs or MP3s and share this with people from the perspective of Dr. Vince Fortunace, who was St. John Paul II's doctor. Yes, he was his doctor. Parkinson's disease. Dr. Vince is going to show you the statistics of studies why marijuana, smoking a year of marijuana, is going to get you most likely into the Parkinson's disease when you're an older person. He's going to show you how marijuana shrinks your brain 25%. What? Just give it to the kids. Jess Romero will show you how the biblical teachings of sobriety. Ruben Nava, who's been a policeman in the sheriff's department for 10 years on narcotics, his statistics and what he has to say is phenomenal. Just give this to your son or daughter who might be smoking pot, thinking that it's cool. But I would ask you, Mom, Dad, take the time to do that. Just like I ask people about the Catholic Care Package that I've been promoting. What's that? A Catholic Care Package. It's 6 audio and CDs that are geared to bring fallen away Catholics back home to the church. Yeah. You can pick those up. I'll send them to whoever you want me to send it to. I will give them a letter with my name on it, my cell number saying, hey, if you got questions about the Catholic faith, I'll answer them for you. Call me. Someone who loved you very much sent this to you. They'll never know it was you. Also, I want to share with you, we have our Sacred Heart Chapel where we're having the men's conference June 3rd. We have a special need. If you feel like you can help us with putting a new roof on our church, yeah, it's about a $65,000 roof. Even if you give us $5, I say thank you, or $5,000, whatever it is, we need a new roof by September. That's our goal for raising the money. And, I'm a volunteer here at the Immaculate Heart Radio along with Jesse. So if you can help us on our project by calling 877-526-2151, I'm here the rest of the afternoon. I think I'm the only knucklehead who gives my cell number out. I got a couple emails and texts today. They thank you for giving your cell number out. Nobody else does. Well, I do. 661-972-7872. I spend my time talking to you, our listeners, to help you get to heaven. And that's what I do. If you'd like to join us in this great mission, I've been doing it 40 years, right? I would love to have you help us with this roof project. I mean, it's a big one. Call 877-526-2151 to help us get our roof put on this 110-year-old chapel. I know many of you last week donated, and I want to thank you for that. It's tax deductible. You make it to CatholicRC.org. That's our website. you can give us a donation. I would appreciate it. If you want to get all these wonderful CDs, whether it's on the Living the Message of Fatima or Rosary CDs for promoting Our Lady's Rosary, we know that the Rosary is Mary's peace plan that God has used to avoid a war. That's what Our Lady of Fatima said. So I would ask you to help someone pray the Rosary. I'll give you 2 copies of it. If you just call 877-526-2151, or if you have a son or daughter who's involved with marijuana, that's why I put this conference together with great people. Dr. Vince Fortunese, Jess Romero, and Ruben Nava will help you share this information with your son or daughter. Don't be there when he listens to it or she listens to it. Just say, hey, Mom, Dad, can you guys check this out? And like I said, it's worth the money to get these CDs into the hands of our young people. Because I'll tell you, a life of sobriety over a life of drunkenness, yeah, you can pick which one you want. I think our Lord wants sobriety. That's what the Bible says. If you want to get those CDs on marijuana, that shows the devastating effect of it on the brain and the body, call 877-526-2151 or go online to CatholicRC.org. And again, for the men's conference, June 3rd, Jesse Romero, Fred Krause, and Terry Barber. June 3rd, you can send your husband on that retreat by just calling 877-526-2151 or go online to CatholicRC.org. We'll see you again tomorrow with Dr. Ed Mazza. We'll be right back.